pump and injectors are on. It's all running sweet. We took it for a run down the road yesterday. Seems to be working fine. So pump and injectors and everything are quite a bit noisier now, which is just a thing when you upgrade to the 12mm plunger. Sounds cool.
I reckon it sounds awesome.
Sounds like a proper tractor now. So we've got to go to a dyno and get it like run up and adjusted. There is adjustments can be made to the mechanical pump for various like boost levels and that sort of thing. So at the moment we've got no boost controller on it, so we've got to obviously rectify that as well. We've also got no EGT gauge, which is pretty important when you're running a diesel and pushing your luck with them. So to fix that, we've got this GFB D-Force. So they've got a G-Force, which is a boost controller, electronic boost controller. This is the D-Force, and I guess the main difference between the two is this one has an integrated EGT module. So the EGT is displayed on the D-Force display piece. So it's controlling your boost pressure and also displaying your EGTs.
EGTs are very important with diesels, that's right, Alan. Yes?
That's it. That's yeah, sort of. It's basically a warning. If you get past X amount of exhaust gas temperature, you're risking damage to the engine. So that varies between engines. Different engines have different sort of safe levels that are pretty much just determined by who's blown up which engine at what EGT. So they sort of say 550 degrees Celsius on a TD42 is, if you sustain that, you're asking for trouble. So we obviously want to tune it to be below that level. So
where's this
can't tune it below the level if you don't know what it is. So that's why you always need an EGT gauge.
Where's that going to go on the dash? Where are you thinking?
That's going to go wherever you put it, because unfortunately my finger hasn't miraculously healed overnight. So.
Hey, where's your hand? It's looking better.
Oh yeah, it's looking better, but it's still broken. So this little piece, I don't know, I guess it's got controls on it, so you got to sort of put it where you can actually adjust it.
What about just in the centre next to that radio? Underneath.
Like there.
Yeah. It's your car, man. You gotta make a decision.
Oh, I will.
Some people will put it on the A pillar.
What about there?
That's kind of cool.
You can get at it there, and you can see it. We'll figure it out.
Easy.
So we got a weld on that they supply with your probe. I've already put a 18 by 1.5 fitting in there in the exhaust, because then you can also put a wideband sensor in there as well. So what we'll do is, I've got an 18 by 1.5 adapter. We'll pull the adapter out and just weld this to that adapter. So you can then swap this out for an AFR gauge, because you can also tune to AFR. So AFR and EGT are related, but it should be tuned to AFR as well. Depends on your guy who's tuning it. So I've just given them the option, so they can pull this out and put the AFR meter in there and tune it to that. And then this is sort of your end user. If I'm towing up a big hill, you look at your EGTs. If you're overloading the engine, long sustained load, that's when you're going to cause the damage. So it's always good to have that meter for the end user to look at.
Cool.
So that'll be your job as well.
The GFB D-Force is a perfect size to be fitted into a standard DIN slot, but we decided to mount it over some existing screw holes in the centre fascia. Following the instructions are very easy, and once the stereo was removed, a 12 volt power supply and earth was sourced from the head unit wiring. Using crimps and heat shrink, the D-Force is wired in and the wiring for the boost control solenoid and EGT probe is routed out into the engine bay and along the firewall.
Our GFB D-Force is installed and ready to use. Really easy installation, super simple, just follow the instructions, follow the wiring diagram, it's all self-explanatory. So here we are, we've got the special red colour. You can change your colours from red through to blue. There's a few other colours there too. So starting up the car, that's currently our boost pressure reading. So it'll give us a reading in PSI and it'll also give us an EGT reading in Celsius. So this is our boost pressure, obviously we're at 0, there's nothing there. So if I stall the car up, give us our boost pressure in PSI. If I then toggle to our exhaust gas temperature, that's times 10, so that's 180 degrees right now. If you stall it up, obviously the more load on the engine, the higher the exhaust temp's going to be. A few things we do need to set up with the D-Force is to go through and we need to do an idle calibration. We also need to set our EGT over temp. So scrolling through the menu, just tapping the menu button, it's our duty cycle, gain, sensitivity. You can adjust all this and you can control, see example, the gain, control how fast the turbo spools up. We will fiddle with it, we'll play with it when we go for a drive. What we want to do is go to our EGT over temp. So here, once we set this EGT over temp, it will flash up danger to manifold, and then the floor will fall out. No, but it will flash up and give a warning to say EGT over temp. What's the magic TD42 number, Al?
550 degrees, I think it is.
So 550 degrees will be this. And that's set, press the menu, going down. So there's a lot of settings you can do with the D-Force. Stuff like your scramble boost, which will basically, you can set it to a certain boost pressure. When you hit scramble, it will go from your set, say 20 PSI to 30 PSI or something. You can also input an auxiliary input, so something off like a NOS switch on your steering wheel or accelerator pedal input, or maybe your gear. So say if you was to shift into third gear, it will then tell it to go, okay, scramble boost for a certain amount of seconds. We need to do an idle calibration now, so coming down through, peak hold, display units, obviously you can change between Celsius and Fahrenheit, input setup, and idle calibration. So we need to let the D-Force know what the manifold pressure is at idle. So holding the button down, calibrating, and that's us. So you can change around with the colours, but I think we'll just leave it at red. There's some pretty fancy colours there though. And that's us. I think now all we need to do is probably just go for a drive, Al, and play with some of the sensitivity and gain and stuff.
Sounds good.
Cool. We've just filled up with fuel and given a little hit out of the fuel station, and we're only getting 14.5 PSI boost. After reading the instructions, realised you have to set the overboost setting first. So Alan set the magic number to 30.
Yep.
Now we can go through into our duty and set our boost pressure from there. So duty cycle goes from 0 to 100%. 0 obviously being the least, 100 being the most. In theory, 100% would be 50 PSI if you can produce that. But we're really not too sure what it's going to get to. So starting at a lower number, let's go 15. Gain we can play with. You going to play with it now? I reckon just give it a hit and see what we get to. So 11 pound at the moment.
That's not enough.
Not enough of the...
Let's put it up to 100 and we'll go back.
100 and go back, you think? Let's try 60. But what if you go from like straight to 50 psi?
So?
Not my car. Okay, 15. 15 and a half pound now. Big cloud of smoke behind us. So maybe you're right, maybe we do go to 100.
That's it.
Set. £22. That's alright, that's pretty decent, isn't it?
We need more wastegate.
More wastegate, you think?
More spring. Pulls like a bloody...
Goes sweet now, doesn't it? Goes really well. I think that's pretty impressive. It's amazing the difference that pump makes, man. That's crazy. I thought it went well before.
No, it didn't. Went better than the petrol. Smooth as silk.
Goes awesome, eh? That goes really well. So the magic number's currently sitting at, what was that, £22? As Al just noted, probably going to have to change the wastegate spring. So now Al's got it nice and hot for me. I'll jump in there and change the spring.
Woody and I went for a long drive and played around with the boost controller. We weren't able to get the boost pressure that we wanted. We can only get about £22, which is probably a bit low. So we brought the car back, checked out the wastegate cracking pressure, put a £15 spring in it, which is the highest that I had available to me. And it does crack at £15, but the other factors involved are exhaust manifold pressure acting on the wastegate flap itself. So what we're doing is we've fiddled around with it. We've got a bunch of springs and crap, all this, just a collection of stuff that I've collected over the years playing around with turbos, and I managed to find an outer spring that we could put in with the original spring, which looks like that. It's a tapered thing. So we've got the cracking pressure to rise right up to about £30, which you can test. You can see it starting to squirm open at £30. So that might seem real high, but it was already cracking at £15, and we were only getting 10 like base pressure. So you've got to account for the other things that are at play. So we're going to stick it back on now and go for a drive and see if we can get it to sit at about 20 with no control. That'd be sweet. Woody, fit it. Woody, what's taken so long? Bloody hell.
Just at 480 degrees, dude.
You'll be right. Just put a bit of sweat on it.
That's what I'm doing. The wastegate actuator spring was changed to a higher base pressure, and we are able to get a steady 15 psi with no boost controller assistance. We then headed down to see our mate Steve from Coolin Motors. As well as general mechanical repairs, Steve also specialises in common rail diesel tuning. Despite that, he agreed to throw the kettle-powered forklift on the dyno to fill his workshop with soot. Straight off the bat, we've made 162 horsepower, which is a pretty good number, but is running a bit lean than the target we require. So the fuel screw in the back of the injector pump was given a quarter of a turn and ran back on the dyno. This time, we did 2 runs in a row, one with the torque converter unlocked, followed by another run with the converter locked. This gives us a peak power reading without the loss through the converter, but as you can see by the graph, it ruins the torque curve and boost response. It's back under the engine bay and given another turn on the fuel screw to even out the AFRs. As you can see by the amount of smoke, having the torque converter locked slows the boost response and has caused it to run very rich at low RPM. With the last dyno pull done, we made a reasonable but safe figure of 210 horsepower at 24 psi.
What do you think, Al?
Yeah, it's good. Plenty
Yeah.
of soot.
Yeah,
You know what they say about soot?
yeah, something about bad fuel economy or something.
Oh yeah, something like that.
Or women with questionable morals.
Yeah, that's it.
Cheers, Al. Cheers, buddy. For me, mate.
200 horsepower. Let's go wheeling.
With the conversion finished and the car running really well, it's out into the backyard for a little bit of fun in the dirt.
Third.
Might need to sort that locker out, eh?
It doesn't work when you're not in 4 drive. It's what it's supposed to do. Lunchtime, bro.
Yeah?
Gotta go home.
What's for lunch?
I don't know, something good.
Something good?
Yeah, I can walk!
Come on, man.
Let's go. Before the fuzz come.
Before the what?
The fuzz come.
Hey Al, can you pass me a 10 mil?
I told you, there's no 10 mils left. They're all gone. And yes, we've done the tappets. It's just a noisy old heap of shit.